All right, guys, how long should you let an ad run? When should you stop it? When should you scale it? How should you know, kind of what to do? So I get these questions all the time, and of course, the answer, unfortunately, like a lot of times, is it depends, kind of on your budget. How much your item costs, how many people you want to reach, kind of, how you want to set things up. But a good kind of general place to start is anywhere between $5 and $20 a day, right? If you're doing a ton of split tests, like all of a sudden, even if you're doing $5 a day, if you do 10 split tests, right, that goes to $50 a day very quickly. If you do 20, obviously it scales up from there. So if you're, just starting out and you have kind of a lower budget, but you do want to do it the right way, which is doing split tests, I suggest maybe doing $5 a day. If you have a slightly larger budget and, you set things up as well as you can, like you always should, targeting the best interests and doing your upfront research using audience insights and Google Trends and things like that, and spending kind of some time and energy on creating your creative, whether it's images or a video and things like that. And then your initial ad spend, of course, it's not going to be as profitable as retargeting once you have pixel data and stuff like that. But even your initial kind of quote unquote shots in the dark, some of them will be profitable. I think a lot of people have this kind of like mythical idea that like the second you run any Facebook ad, like no matter what it is, it's just going to immediately be profitable. And that's just unfortunately not the case anywhere on earth, for making money. And it's also not the case on Facebook ads. But a more realistic kind of expectation, and an expectation that I have, is kind of a zero-sum expectation for your initial shots in the dark. And that's just a way that I call it. But obviously your shots in the dark have a lot of upfront thought, and you're not just creating shots in the dark. But what I mean by shots in the dark is you're creating a bunch of split tests up front using as much data as you can collect from audience insights, Google Trends, and just like logic about your market and audience to create a bunch of split tests. And then from there we'll narrow down which ones are working, which ones aren't. So what I like to say, guys, is $5 to $20 a day. Let them run for 3 days, and then after 3 days you can really tell a lot. If you're not getting any type of results you want, if you're not getting emails, leads, right, completed registrations, purchases, and none of that, then you need to stop the ad, right? If you are getting some of them and you're getting them at kind of an acceptable cost per lead or per whatever it is, right? And an acceptable kind of cost per email is anywhere from 50 cents if you're a rock star and you're retargeting and things like that, or you're in like a cheaper niche like weight loss or something like that, all the way up to even $3 to $5. And I've paid as much as $12 to $15 per webinar registration, which is just an email, right? Those aren't sales, but they're very targeted leads, right? And you have to think about it like this, guys. If somebody enters my webinar, they're not just watching my webinar, they're giving me their email, which means they're added to an automatic email sequence, right? So they get emails from me after that. If they join my webinar, they're getting added to my ManyChat sequence. They're getting added to my Messenger bot, so I can send a broadcast to their Messenger as well. They're getting exposure to me. They're being pixeled, right? So I'm retargeting them if they do make it to my webinar, saying, hey, I saw that you watched my webinar. I just wanted to thank you for that. And, we're actually running a one-time kind of discount on, the product that you did see in the webinar. So it's like, even if I'm losing money on the upfront, like we've talked about over and over and over again, I'm making money on these things downstream, and kind of establishing what your profit ecosystem is and kind of what your value ladder is, and things like that is going to be really advantageous for you guys, right? So something that I want to note, guys, when scaling ads, you're going to kind of have a lot of ad sets. So, when you're creating your shots in the dark and you have, let's say just for the sake of ease of math, you have 10 different ad sets that you're duplicating, right? Some of them are going to be $5 a click, some just for the sake of ease, right? Maybe it's emails or purchases or whatever it is. Some of them are going to be $3 a click. Some of them are going to be $1 a click, right? So when you're scaling a ton of ads like this, I really like to only kind of modify one major attribute in 24 hours. Because the ones that are working, it's very, very important, guys. And if you're not paying attention or you're texting or whatever, stop it for a second, because I promise you're gonna want to know this. But knowing you guys, being the beautiful ninja family that you are, you're never texting when I'm talking, because you realize just how amazing the knowledge is. So a ninja note, right? I never, ever, ever, ever actually change winning ad sets, guys. There's too many chaotic variables. Facebook is very finicky, right? They don't like change. So if I have an ad set, let's say that this traffic campaign right here is, getting me $1 emails, right? Or $1 registrations or $1 purchases or whatever it is, right? If it's getting me a $1 cost per click, I would never in a million years go into this and like change the interest or change anything about this ad itself because Facebook does not like it when you change things. Let this ad run till the end of time if it's running profitably and getting you the results you want. And then the only thing that we're going to change about this, guys, is the daily budget. We're going to increase it by 15% to 30% a day, and we're going to do that using a rule, right? And we can talk about this really quick. Just super fast. All active ad sets, right? We're going to adjust budget, increase daily budget by 15%, right? And if the, let's say, cost per purchase is less than $5. So this means every time an ad set has a cost per purchase that's less than $5, this rule is going to automatically increase it by 15%, right? So it's seriously that easy, guys. You saw me do it in 15 seconds. And that one tip alone, I had a friend who ran a Facebook ad agency, and he was adjusting hundreds and hundreds of ad sets by hand, increasing them, decreasing them, pausing them, instead of using rules. And he was like, oh my God, Kevin, you just saved my life, right? So I hope you guys never realize how amazing you're going to kind of learn this, because you'll never realize all the mistakes you could have made if you learned it the wrong way. But to finish my thought, guys, I never change ads at all if they're performing well. I just duplicate them. Right, so if this is getting me $1 per clicks, I'll duplicate it, and then I'll change one major attribute in 24 hours, right? Maybe this ad set, I was targeting Tony Robbins. I would duplicate it and then go in and edit it, right? And I would change that interest from Tony Robbins to Gary Vaynerchuk, right? That's the only difference that I would make, right, in 24 hours. Because then, guys, I know for sure what the impact of my change was. I knew that the ad was performing, and if it performs better, then that means Gary Vaynerchuk is a more targeted audience than Tony Robbins. If it performs worse, that means Gary Vaynerchuk is a worse interest to target for this specific offer than Tony Robbins, right? So that is the key to kind of knowing how to scale things, and it's so important that you never ever actually change winning ad sets. Let them run until literally pigs are flying and hell is frozen over, if they remain profitable, right? And the rules will ensure that if you set them up correctly, right? So this kind of means, guys, after one set of initial profitable ads, I'd kind of further split test them by, one thing, whether it's gender, maybe I'm going to test women, maybe I'm going to test 24 through 35-year-olds, age, maybe I'm going to test, I'm going to increase the bid or the budget, whatever it is, right? One per 24 hours. Always duplicate. And so, another common myth, guys, is that you can just increase the daily budget. So let's say I'm getting like a $1 click cost per click at $5 a day. If I increase it to $5,000 per day, first of all, it's not going to spend $5,000 per day, almost guaranteed. It might, so don't do that, but it's almost guaranteed it won't. And then your $1 cost per click, guys, is going to go to like $100 cost per click. Like it does not scale how you want it to be. It's disproportional. Do not do it this way. The maximum that you can, profitably scale your daily budget is 15 to 30%. And again, guys, just to reiterate, right, the best marketers in the world test a lot of things quickly, zero sum, meaning, they don't lose or make money on those tests. They're not trying to profit immediately. They understand that the profit comes from, honing in on what your perfect audience is, and it comes from retargeting based on pixel data. Right, and then they understand that scaling winning campaigns and then retargeting, interested potential customers. This is where you see the significant profits. This is where you see the fruits of your labor, not at the beginning. Right, that is the best marketers in the world understand that they're not trying to make money at the very beginning. And guys, so it's impossible kind of to tell you what your specific cost per lead should be, because obviously every business is different. But just because like a cost per lead for like a weight loss thing is like super cheap, it can be like 50 cents, right? Or a cost per lead for like a $50,000 or $20,000 mastermind, even if you're getting those for, $1,000 and somebody buys, obviously it's worth it, right? But a very, very general kind of cost per lead that is, I kind of go by business to consumer, right? A lead magnet If less than $1, fantastic. $1 to 250, pretty good. Needs work over 250, right? A business to business lead magnet, right? If you're selling like a SaaS or like a software package, like for businesses, less than $3 is good, right? These are a little bit more expensive because it's generally a higher ticket product. $3 to $6 is all right, pretty good. Above $6, you could work on it a little bit. Excuse me. Business to business webinar registration. Kind of less than 6 is pretty good. Webinar registrations, 6 to 12 is kind of what we optimize for. Less than 6 is very difficult to do, but it's possible. And then above 12 kind of needs a little bit of work, guys. So that is how long you should run ads. A ton more data on how to actually kind of scale, how to never actually change the specific ad sets themselves that are winning. Always duplicate them. Change one thing per 24 hours. These are the ways that you be successful. And understanding that when you're actually creating like your big amount of tests up front, guys, the best marketers in the world know that this is zero sum. They're not trying to make a huge amount of profits. What they're trying to do with those big amount of tests up front is figure out what their perfect audience is fast, and then scale the ad sets that are actually working, 15 to 30% per day, and just see their profits start to soar once they actually find their perfect target audience, and once they actually have pixel data to then retarget people to make a bunch of profit, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that one, and let's get to the next.